Not sure he even got it on film, but I just rattled in. Super wide 8-pointer. He's a 4-year-old. He's been on that farm over there quite a bit. Came all the way in and looked directly at the decoy. Turned around and left. I grunted a couple times, but he just left. I don't know where he went. Gosh dang it, that's a good deer. He's probably gonna get shot if he came up here. He was right there, like 50 yards. Alright, well, just getting to the blind. This is where I sat a few nights ago and really didn't see much. Actually, I saw 0 deer that night. But I was actually going to try to hunt a different farm tonight after a buck that has shed his rack. But I know he's 8 years old and he just doesn't amount to much ever in the rack department. So I just wanted to shoot him to get him out of the herd because he is a bully deer. So I was going to go hunt there tonight, but the wind's southeast, which is terrible for walking into that farm. So I decided to come to here. I had pictures of my my new #1 hit lister, I guess, since my other 5 or 6 got shot. This one is just a 5-year-old 8-pointer. Might be 140. I don't know. I'm not even sure if he'll be that big, but he is 5. I've had pictures of him the last few years, and he's a great deer. He was here late last night, early this morning, with a bunch of other deer, and he's fighting and everything. So decided to come in here. Southeast wind is just almost perfect. East is perfect. Southeast is next to perfect. So I'm in here. I'm in a blind. Couldn't make it to my tree stand in time after work, which is in the woods there a little ways, but kind of cut these deer off coming to this food because they're just getting here. I mean, it's gonna be probably dark, and now it's 54 degrees and sunny on December 22nd. Unheard of. Alright guys, well, that's not what we wanted, but these big does came in, and one of them's really big, really smart. Great instincts. Man, she would not get closer than 40 yards to this blind, but it's a little windy. It's a soft-sided blind. Got some movement to it. I had a couple does right here, like 8 yards, but I couldn't shoot them on film. And the wind picked up one time, and they just took off, went behind me. So anyway, I thought, you know, she's gonna walk to the side of me. 32 yards. I put 30 right on her chest, thinking she's gonna duck because they're already kind of on edge. And that's what she did. She ducked, but it went right in. Looked like the leg, but it must have went up and hit her spine when she. I'm not very high. I'm like 7 feet off the ground, maybe 8. Shooting, yeah, I'm probably 7 or 8 feet, and just dropped her right there. But she's very much well alive. So I ended up getting down. I spooked some of these deer off. I don't even know what they were, but ran up there and I got really right next to her, and I shot, and I shot right underneath of her at like 4 feet. I missed her. Pretty embarrassing, but I just trying to aim the arrow, and she was moving around a little bit. But so the second shot I put right in her lungs, and she expired right there. But there's the blind. There's her big old girl. This big old girl came in tonight with a bunch of other does, and have several people wanting deer meat that didn't get a deer this year due to our numbers are actually really down low and on deer, and I really don't want to shoot any more, but I've got the means to kill a couple does since I hunt several different farms, and they're all scattered out, so I'm hunting, you know, like 5 different deer herds. So I'll shoot a doe here, but I won't shoot another one probably unless I start seeing some numbers bounce back. I saw 15 does tonight, not a single buck, but does and fawns, so that's encouraging. That was fun. I haven't shot a deer in a while. I haven't shot a buck all year. 2020 is about done. Oh, empty chest. Just my remote, boys. What's that say? Bigger than I thought she was. Oof. Big old girl.
Hey folks, it's Fitz checking in here from northern Minnesota. It is the early part of December, and I just wanted to touch base with you guys and let you know how my season has been going. At the resort here, we were blessed that amidst this craziness and pandemic life that we're living now, we were fortunate enough to have our very best year ever. We were super busy. The downside of that, of course, was that my early season suffered. The first whole month of the open Minnesota season, I actually only hunted twice. My first hunt, I took the opportunity with a buddy of mine up to do some scouting. I've been dreaming up the scheming plan of doing a backpacking kind of dispersed camping hunt deep in the timber, and there's a spot that I put a camera last year that I wanted to try hunting this year. So opening weekend, mid-September, we loaded up our bikes and we headed down for a long bike ride down some Forest Service roads, through a couple clear cuts, and then we unloaded the bikes, changed into our gear, wiped down, and then hauled all of our stands and gear into the woods. We had to cross through some bogs, along some old logging roads, and then finally we're able to perch up in a tree overlooking this beaver dam crossing. It's a beautiful area. We were able to get some good scouting in, and I'm excited to hunt this area in the future. Unfortunately, that night we didn't see anything, but realistically, by the time we were set up, we only had about 2 hours of light before we had to tear down and get out of there. It was a good way to start the season. I was excited to actually set foot and hunt that area for the first time, get a little bit better idea of how this is going to work. But I'm certainly excited that it's going to be a cool hunt in a future year here. Fast forward to October the 8th, and that was my next hunt. That hunt, I decided to go to a stand I call the North Cut Ash. It's in the middle of one of these old clear cuts from about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's surrounded by bedding area, and I've had a pretty good luck at spotting deer from that stand. I was fortunate enough to have my first deer of the season come in, just a young 1.5-year-old buck came walking through. It's always nice to kind of knock the rust off of getting used to getting everything framed up in camera, pretending to draw back on a deer, and just kind of work out all the kinks those first couple hunts of the season. He was the only deer I saw that particular hunt. He's kind of unique. He has these white socks on all 4 of his hooves, so I'm curious to see if he sticks around, if he's a deer that we can track over the next few years and see how he develops from 1.5 years and beyond. It wasn't really until October 21st with some fresh snow on the ground that I was ready to actually start seriously hunting for the season.
All right, well, we got in here pretty quiet. It's going to be hard to hear him coming. I have basically this one shooting lane right on the edge of the ridge here. Other side of that opening is where my stealth cam fusion is. The last couple days, I've gotten 5 or 6 different bucks cruising in the daylight, which is why I wanted to get in here. In the main area here, 25 yards is my furthest shot. There's a couple tiny little pockets where I might be able to reach out to 35, but they're most likely going to be on top of me before I hear them, especially with how soft the snow is. I just got busted by the dumbest deer in the woods. He had me pegged from the get-go.
Needless to say, after that, the rest of the hunt was pretty quiet. That encounter would kick off a series of hunts throughout the rut that would really, for me, become a grind.
Well, the wolves are back. They're further south today. They're actually closer, but south. Yesterday they were far to the west. They don't sound too far. Say about a half mile at most. I'm hoping to stay in here for an all-day sit, but the winds are going to switch. They're starting light and westerly, which blows my scent right through the bog and the way I come in. But they're going to switch to the south throughout the day and pick up. I'm fine until it gets really to the straight south. Then I'm going to have to get down. It's just not a good wind. That's where they come from. That's where the deer came from last night. I'm also not really sure when the winds pick up how swirly it is down in here. So we'll just kind of play it by ear, but I'm excited to stick it out as long as I can. Who knows, maybe those wolves will come through.
I'm sure there's a lot of hunters out there that would be disappointed having the wolf pack come through, especially on one of my last hunts before I headed south for the Wisconsin rifle season. But it's been my experience that just because you see wolves or have wolves come through, it does not blast deer out of an area for a couple of days. In fact, a third or a half the time that I see wolves or have a close wolf encounter or have them howling nearby, I will see deer on that sit. And sure enough, the Crabby 7, the nice young 2.5-year-old buck that's been in front of every single one of my cameras, came rolling through just a couple hours after the wolves were there. Later that week, I headed south to the cabin for the Wisconsin rifle season. We had a great season down there with my family. My dad shot the biggest buck of his life. My brother had a really nice buck, and I managed to fill the freezer with the little 6-pointer, taking the pressure off of me this late season here in Minnesota. So now that I'm back home and we're on the other side of Thanksgiving, it's time to grind into the late season here. I've pulled some trail cameras and been getting some pictures on my cell cam. My dad has also gotten some pictures, even showing some of our hitless bucks walking around in the daylight still. So I'm going to be shifting gears here to late season, trying to get in close to bedding areas, into some of these feeding areas, and we've even had a little bit of second rut activity going on. So I'm hoping that this can all come together, and I'm going to keep grinding it until the end of the year here. So stick with me as always, guys. Bow hunt or die.